Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into a guide that feels, incredibly timely for this moment, especially for you, the person who finds yourself constantly needing to distill information and, contribute meaningfully, often under a lot of pressure.
It's a really powerful framework.
Our source material today is based on the principles of intelligent speaking, a concept from engineer Reuben Juma Onunga.
And our mission for you is pretty simple: to quickly grasp why disciplined speech, and I don't just mean being articulate, but really disciplined, is no longer a courtesy. It's a critical professional and even personal survival skill.
That distinction is so key because we don't just live in a loud time. Onunga calls it the age of noise.
Yes.
Where speed is so dangerously mistaken for wisdom and, just sheer volume for intelligence. Think about how many platforms demand your immediate, unfiltered reaction.
All of them.
Right. We're all looking for that shortcut to move from that primal reactive impulse to genuine, measured influence.
And that's the core tension, isn't it? We're rewarded for being fast, for being the first to respond. But true success, long-term success, is built on being a thoughtful responder.
Oh, okay.
The whole premise here is that intelligent speaking is it's a survival skill now. It requires this intense discipline of thought, of emotion, of your ego, and maybe most critically, of timing.
And the author makes it clear that words can be liabilities.
Painfully clear. He says, regardless of your good intentions, your words become these immense liabilities the second they become careless.
So what we're learning here isn't about, becoming a monk and going silent.
Not at all.
It's about learning not to say more, but to say what actually matters, when it matters, and how it matters. It's about value over volume.
Precisely. And to really feel the urgency of this, we have to look at the immediate cost of hurried speech. In this age of noise, the pressure to be constantly connected, to reply instantly, it leads people right into this trap of talking first and thinking later.
Which is, ironically, the exact opposite of what high performers do. If we're rushing our communication, where does that damage show up first?
So the author gives this truly a staggering insight here, and this should resonate with anyone tracking their career. He says, more opportunities and reputations are damaged by unguarded, careless words.
Wait, say that again. More than what?
More than by poor professional performance.
Or even a lack of raw ability.
Okay, let's pause on that.
Yeah.
You're saying a highly competent person can literally self-sabotage their entire career, not because they couldn't do the job,
No.
but because they couldn't control their tongue.
Exactly that. Competence gets you in the door. Character, which is reflected so heavily in your words, keeps you in the room and gets you promoted. And the consequences now, they aren't just immediate, they're deep. And they are permanent, all thanks to technology.
That's the modern multiplier, isn't it? The thing we all have to grapple with.
Absolutely. The ancient philosophers, they understood this. The Greeks would say words are like arrows. Once you release them, you can't get them back. Right.
But modern digital communication doesn't just release the arrow. It archives it, it timestamps it, makes it searchable, and duplicates it a million times.
So every casual text, every Slack comment.
Every frustrated email.
Yeah.
It can be screenshotted and live forever, completely divorced from its original context or whatever fleeting emotion you were feeling. The consequence is slow, deep, and utterly permanent.
So the damage is professional, but what about the emotional side? The relational cost of hurried speech. That hits us where we live, especially in high-stakes relationships or team dynamics.
Well, hurried speech almost always leads to misunderstanding because words that are incomplete or just, poorly formed, they create these gaps.
And people fill those gaps.
And human nature dictates we fill those gaps immediately, usually with assumptions or offense. The source quotes this incredibly direct piece of ancient wisdom. He who answers before listening, that is his folly and his shame.
And the source describes the wounds from reckless words as being really severe.
They are. Reckless words pierce like a sword. And they leave these wounds that logic just can't heal. You can't argue them away. You can't use data or a policy handbook to fix trust that was broken by one unnecessary outburst.
So professionally, it's career derailment.
Often, yeah. It often stems from speech that was it was unnecessary, badly timed, or driven by a temporary emotion. And it just undermines years of trust you've built through hard work.
Okay, so if the cost is that high, where does the author suggest we even begin to tackle this? We need to move from just being aware of it to actually doing something.
And here's where the discipline really starts. The solution isn't to just withdraw into silence. It's intentional thought. The author argues that intelligent speech has to begin with a decision in the mind not an impulse from the tongue.
That moment of friction, the book focuses on just resisting that initial impulse.
That's the heart of it. Chapter 3. Thinking before speaking is essentially the act of resisting impulse. And the great insight here is that most foolish talk, it's not malicious, it's purely reactive.
We just speak before we've processed.
Before the emotion settles, before the meaning is clear, or before we've even understood what the other person truly meant.
This sounds a lot like the classic Stoic ideal.
It's the Stoic pause, exactly. The whole philosophy that between stimulus and response, there's a space. And in that space is our power to choose.
A choice.
If you can't find that pause, you aren't acting with freedom. You're just being driven by impulse. The tongue is governing the mind. The intelligent speaker, they restore the natural order.
But I have to push back a little here. I mean, that sounds great in a controlled philosophical setting. But in a high-pressure meeting, or when a client is demanding an answer right now, how do you realistically impose a 4-step internal checklist? Isn't that just too slow?
That's a crucial question, because the pause isn't about taking 3 minutes to meditate in the corner.
Right.
It's about establishing the intention to apply a filter, even if that pause is only 3 seconds long. It's the mental habit that matters, and the author outlines these silent questions that act as internal gatekeepers.
Let's walk through those because they're the practical takeaway for you, the listener. The first one is this necessary?
And this one immediately filters out so much noise, so much ego. Is what you're about to say necessary for clarification, for resolution? Or are you just speaking to fill a silence, or maybe to prove you were listening?
Oh, that's a good one.
Think about all the unnecessary reply all emails. Most of those fail the necessity test right away.
Okay, the second question. Is this accurate? This forces a quick fact check.
It requires intellectual honesty. Rushing to speak often means you're speaking from an assumption, or, with only partial knowledge. This question demands you verify, or at the very least, frame what you're saying as a question instead of a statement. It protects you from being publicly wrong.
Third, is this timely?
So often overlooked. But timing is everything. You might have a necessary and accurate point, but if you bring it up at the wrong moment...
Like right before a big presentation.
Exactly. Yeah. Or launching a huge new idea in the middle of a crisis. It just destroys the impact. This question forces you to judge the context.
And the final question, which seems to hit that relational part, is this constructive?
This is the acid test for your intention. Even if it's true, even if it's needed, does this speech build up? Does it move the team forward? Or does it just tear down the person or the idea in front of you? If the answer is no, it fails the intelligence test.
If you just asked those 4 questions before hitting reply all, you'd probably eliminate most of your future regrets.
The vast majority. And that's the utility of the pause. It gives your thoughts space to mature. The source reminds us of that old truth. Even fools are thought-wise if they keep silent. That restraint itself communicates a kind of intelligence.
It signals self-mastery.
It does. Yeah. And that leads us right to the 2 biggest internal saboteurs that fight against those 4 questions. Unmanaged emotion and unchecked ego.
The hijackers of the tongue. Let's start with emotion. We're human. We feel frustration, anger, excitement. You can't just eliminate feelings.
Absolutely not, and you shouldn't. Wisdom, as the author frames it, is not the absence of feeling. It's the presence of control over that feeling. If you give emotion the microphone instantly, it speaks with volume and distortion. The warning is timeless. A fool gives full vent to his spirit, but a wise man quietly holds it back. The wise person feels it, processes it, and then chooses how to express the settled emotion.
And then there's the ego, the part of us that just demands to be heard.
The ego demands validation. It insists on being heard. And, critically, it sees silence as defeat, like you're letting the other person win.
So it pushes you to speak just to win the argument.
Exactly. Not to clarify, not to build, but just to prove you're smarter.
We've all been in that meeting, the one where someone just has to one-up everyone. What's the long-term cost of letting emotion and ego drive your communication?
It's massive. It just corrodes trust. A leader who constantly speaks from frustration creates a climate of fear. People stop being honest because they're afraid of a rash reaction. The source emphasizes that the outcome of an interaction is often determined by tone, not content.
So your brilliant idea gets lost because the delivery was harsh.
Completely lost. And the relational damage is done. The reminder is potent. A gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger.
So the goal is to separate the emotion from the expression. Acknowledge the feeling, but let it settle. That pause again, so that the final expression is productive and measured.
Time is your greatest ally here. You might feel frustrated, but you don't need to express that frustration now. You need to express the solution or the boundary later when the emotional heat has faded.
This brings us to the final concept, and maybe the most applicable one, using silence as a strategy. For you, the listener, this is about reframing silence, not as a lack of contribution, but as an active tool of influence.
Yes, chapters 5, 6, and 9 really dive into this.
Mhm.
We have to stop seeing silence as weakness or ignorance. In professional spaces, less is absolutely more.
It's counterintuitive.
It is, but speaking selectively dramatically increases your credibility. Constant contribution, just talking to fill space, it systematically dilutes your impact.
I think we see this in big meetings all the time. The person who speaks on every single topic eventually just becomes background noise.
They do. The source is adamant. Authority grows from meaningful contribution, not constant contribution. When your words are rare and measured, people literally stop and listen. When they're constant, they just blend in. It's the principle of scarcity, but for your reputation.
And what about silence as a defensive tool? Especially when you're provoked or challenged.
That is its essential function for dignity and control. Silence prevents you from unnecessary self-exposure. If someone baits you, reacting emotionally means you've just handed your control over to them.
The disciplined speaker holds on to that control.
They do. The author uses that powerful example of remaining silent when falsely accused. That restraint speaks louder than any defense you could possibly mount in that moment. It shows incredible composure.
So a leader who is comfortable with silence isn't just quiet. They're signaling this deep, non-anxious confidence.
Precisely. They signal inner control, superior judgment. Wise leaders speak to clarify and stabilize, not to vent or dominate. When a leader is comfortable with silence, they control the room without dominating the conversation. Their silence creates anticipation for their eventual measured word.
And that anticipation makes the words themselves carry more weight.
So much more. It gives them gravity. And that really is the highest expression of intelligence, knowing precisely when not to speak. It creates contrast, it builds anticipation, and it just sharpens the impact of what you finally say.
This has been a true deep dive into what is clearly a lifelong discipline, not some quick trick.
It really is. It's a discipline that fundamentally transforms your life. When your words are consistently disciplined, they stop creating problems, which hurried speech always does, and they start solving them. The rewards are huge. Success without all the conflict, authority without aggression.
It changes your identity as a speaker. You shift from just being a contributor to being an indispensable guide. The intelligent speaker stands out not by volume, but by relevance.
And that quiet, measured confidence is the quality that separates people who are merely heard from those who are truly listened to.
That is a powerful distinction, and it's one you can start applying immediately. So here's the thought to take with you. If a professional reputation is built on patterns of speech that reflect wisdom and restraint, does that mean that in highly charged moments, intentional silence is the quickest way to reveal true, unshakable authority? Think about what your silence is communicating.